our moon. Brilliant, tranquil, and throughout time, it has been a complete mystery to us. For centuries, stories have been told and sonnets have been written about the moon. In fact, our lives revolve around the moon. With every seasonal change, the moon is ever present. The moon lights our way in the darkest night and gently guides the weather across our world. Without the moon, the earth would be silent. We are told the moon has been here since well before the dawn of man. Our moon is either a part of the earth or was a vagabond captured by our world eons ago. But is this true? Much controversy exists around the origin and makeup of the moon today, and one of the largest arguments surrounding the satellite is the solidity of its center and the process by which we got our moon in the first place. There are many common theories for the existence of the moon, and all have been proven wrong. The most common is the giant impact theory, the idea that another stellar body collided with the Earth and created the moon. However, the isotopic signature of the Earth and Moon are identical. This negates the idea that another planetary body from somewhere else crashed into the Earth and formed the Moon. Accretion is another hypothesis that states that the Earth and the Moon formed together as a double system from the primordial accretion disk of the solar system. The problem with this hypothesis is that it does not explain the angular momentum of the Earth-Moon system, or why the Moon has a relatively small or no iron core compared to the Earth's, and why the Moon does not revolve. The notion that the moon was captured by the Earth is another popular theory. Isaac Asimov has stated, "It's too big to have been captured by the Earth." The chances of such a capture having been effected and the moon then having taken up a nearly perfect circular orbit around our Earth are too small to make such an eventuality credible. Then there is the fission hypothesis. This theory states that during a time when the Earth was forming and was still molten, the spinning of the planet projected out material which became our moon today. The Pacific Ocean was supposedly the area where the moon came from. However, this was debunked, considering the immaturity of the ocean floor crust and knowing that the moon formed at a time much further in the past. Then there is the problem with the moon itself. There are a number of strange facts about the moon which conjure up many questions about its existence, the first of which is the moon's age. The moon is far older than previously expected, maybe even older than the Earth or the Sun. The oldest age for the Earth is estimated to be 4.6 billion years old. Moon rocks were dated at 5.3 billion years old, and the dust upon which they were resting was at least another billion years older. Some argue that the moon may seem older only because its surface never renews itself, whereas the Earth may have rocks that old, but have since been recycled through the natural resurfacing of the planet. There simply is no way to know this for sure. The chemical composition of the dust upon which the moon rocks sat differ remarkably from the rocks themselves. The rocks had to have come from somewhere else. One could surmise that younger and older meteors and asteroids crashing on the surface of the moon would account for the age differences. However, if this were the case, then we should have a multitude of different ages in all the rocks studied. This is not the case. Normal planetary composition results in heavier elements in the core and lighter materials at the surface. Not so on the moon. Don Wilson writes in his book, Our Mysterious Spaceship Moon. The abundance of refractory elements like titanium in the surface areas is so pronounced that several geologists proposed the refractory compounds were brought to the moon's surface in great quantity in some unknown way. They don't know how, but that it was done cannot be questioned. Mysterious water vapor has been detected on the moon as well. On March 7, 1971, lunar instruments placed by the astronauts recorded a vapor cloud of water passing across the surface of the moon. The cloud lasted 14 hours and covered an area of about 100 square miles. Moon rocks were magnetized. This is odd because there is no magnetic field on the moon itself. The ancient calendar of Tiahuanaca in Bolivia tells of a time when our moon wasn't there. Theories about the moon actually date back thousands of years as various cultures and civilizations discuss the story of how it came to be where it resides today. Greek authors Aristotle, Plutarch, as well as Roman authors Apollonius, Rhodius, and Ovid all wrote of a group of people called the Proselines, who lived in the central mountainous area of Greece called Arcadia. The Proselines claimed title to this area because their forebears were there before there was a moon in the heavens. Now, this claim is substantiated by symbols on the wall of the courtyard of Calasacia, near the city of Tiahuanaca, Bolivia. whose symbols record that the moon came into orbit around the Earth between 11,500 and 13,000 years ago, long before recorded history. African Zulu legends say the moon is hollow and the home of the python or chicheria, a reptilian race of intelligent extraterrestrials. The legend states the moon was brought here hundreds of generations ago by two brothers, Wewan and Panku, who were the leaders of these reptilian extraterrestrials. These two reptiles were known as the Water Brothers, and they both had scaly skin like a fish. The Zulu tale is very similar to the Mesopotamia and Sumerian accounts about the two chief leaders who were also brothers, Enlil and Enoch, lords of the earth. The Zulu legend tells of how Wewan and Panku stole the moon in the form of an egg from the giant fire dragon and emptied out the yolk until it was hollow. Then they rolled the moon across the sky to the earth, which brought about cataclysmic events on the planet that ended the golden age of the past. This legend fits well into the theory of the reptilian-human hybrids, which are thought to run our world today. Credo Mutwa, a Zulu shaman, claims that the Earth was very different then than it is now before the moon had arrived. There weren't any seasons, and the planet was perpetually engulfed by a canopy of water vapor. People did not feel the strong glare of the sun that we do now, and they could only see it through a watery mist. The Earth was once a beautiful place, a lovely place, lush and green, with giant redwoods, violets, and ferns, with a gentle drizzle and mist. The water canopy fell to the earth as a cataclysm of rain when the moon was put into place in the Earth's orbit. This could explain the Noah story in the Bible when it rains for 40 days and 40 nights. The arrival of the moon, along with the reptilians, changed everything on Earth. The moon modified the Earth's rotation and angle. The Earth turned on its axis as we were upside down, as the legend says, and brought more powerful tidal systems that once had been much calmer. The Zulu also claimed that women did not menstruate before the moon arrived. How could the Zulu, an ancient African tribe, know of the complex gravitational effects the moon has and would have on the Earth? Much of our current knowledge of the moon was discovered in the last century. Zulus and other native African accounts say the moon was built far, far away to keep an eye on people and as a vehicle to travel the universe. The Zulus say that the reptilians' giant mothership is the moon, and that's where they escaped to during the cataclysms of the Great Flood, which they themselves had caused by manipulating the orbit of the moon and creating other cosmic events. Outrageous as the spacecraft moon theory might first appear, consider how this model reconciles all the mysteries of the moon. First, it explains why the moon gives evidence of being older than the Earth, and perhaps even our solar system, and why there are 3 distinct layers within the moon's crust, with the densest material on the outside layer, as one would expect if it's the hull of a spacecraft. Second, it could also explain why little to no water has been found on the moon's surface, yet there is evidence it exists deep inside. This theory could also explain the strange Maria and Maskins, perhaps the remnants of the machinery used to hollow out the moon. The idea of an artificial satellite could explain the odd rhythmic moonquakes as artificial constructs give way or collapse, reacting the same way during periods of stress from the Earth's pull. And artificial equipment beneath the moon's surface could be the source of the gas clouds that have been observed. If we know the moon is not natural, or at least is a natural satellite that was hollowed to become a spaceship, are there any indications on the surface of the moon that would support this? The answer to this question may startle you. There are a plethora of strange sightings and phenomena on the surface of the moon, many of which you can see with a decent telescope or even the naked eye. Aristarchus, Plato, Eratosthenes, Bela, Rabbi Levi, and Poseidonus all reported anomalous lights on the moon. Even NASA, 1 year before the first lunar landing, reported 570 plus lights and flashes were observed on the moon from 1540 to 1967. As recent as 2014, sightings of lights seen on the moon continue to be reported. Seeing lights on the moon is actually quite common. However, the anomalies don't stop there. A multitude of photographs taken by astronomers as well as NASA show several strange mechanical-type devices on the surface of the moon. The Shard, an obelisk-shaped object that towers 1.5 miles from the Euclid area of the moon's surface, was discovered by Orbiter 3 in 1968. Dr. Bruce Cornett, who studied the amazing photographs, stated no known natural process can explain such a structure. The tower, one of the most curious features ever photographed on the lunar surface, is an amazing spire that rises more than 5 miles from the sinister region of the lunar surface. And there's more. Unusual structures have been discovered across the moon's surface, scattered like the remnants of some long-past civilization. Even we have left our own litter on the moon. Other strange lunar phenomena include the observation by Dr. Frank Harris of a black body on the surface 250 miles long and 50 miles wide, clouds and lightning, strange moving shadows and objects, and spire-like structures thousands of feet high. A huge boulder with tracks behind it from inside a crater to the rim running uphill. The shrinking over a period of time of the crater Luna from 6 miles in diameter to 1.5 miles. Hill effects in craters appearing and disappearing in a few hours. Over 800 substantial observations have been made by scientists of blinking and flashing lights. The results of NASA photographs of the lunar surface indicating several large pyramid structures, strange rifts in the surface with entrances, massive girders, machinery, and some 1,000-kilometer blocks of metal alongside tears in the surface. Scientific experts, including NASA investigators, believe that the moon is hollow. It is the only explanation. The velocity of sound has been found to increase with depth, and at 40 miles it is too fast for the speed of propagation through rock substance. NASA is a government agency, and all government agencies are known to have a history of concealing information from the general public. Questioning NASA's story isn't ludicrous. Many speculate that NASA discovered unsettling information when they finally visited the moon decades ago. Information that would have caused them a lot of problems if leaked to the public. Therefore, we have never returned any human missions to the moon since. Any suggestion of the moon not being what we've been told it is usually follows with accusations of conspiracy theory and pseudoscience. Although there may be many theories that aim to debunk all the aspects of this information, there are too many factors that still don't add up. How is it that seemingly unconnected ancient cultures have their own version of the artificial moon myth? Why are there unexplained geometric structures on the surface of the moon which correlate to the structures found in ancient Egypt and other primitive locations on Earth? How is it that by miraculous chance, the moon perfectly eclipses our sun? The mathematical random probability that the sun and moon would perfectly align for a total eclipse to appear on Earth is 0. And yet the moon has perfectly timed phases and does eclipse often. The distance of the sun to the moon and the moon to the Earth, which allows for the synchronized and complete coverage of the disk of the sun, is impossible unless the moon were placed precisely where it is. Only an intelligence could do that. Between 1969 and 1972, Apollo astronauts placed seismometers at their landing sites around the moon. The Apollo 12, 14, 15, and 16 instruments faithfully radioed data back to Earth until they were switched off in 1977. Between 1972 and 1977, the Apollo Seismic Network saw 28 moonquakes. A few registered up to 5.5 on the Richter scale. A magnitude 5 quake on Earth is energetic enough to move heavy furniture and crack plaster. Furthermore, shallow moonquakes lasted a remarkably long time. Once they reached resonance, all continued for more than 10 minutes. Neil Armstrong was quoted as saying, "The moon was ringing like a bell." What causes the shallow moonquakes, and where do they occur? No one knows for sure. The Apollo seismometers were all in one relatively small region on the front side of the moon, so NASA was unable to pinpoint the exact locations of the quakes. It has been established beyond all reasonable doubt that the moon is not what it appears to be. Two Soviet scientists, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Shubrakov, have spent much of their careers examining the facts compiled on lunar phenomenon. Their conclusion is that the moon is artificial, possibly a hollowed-out planetoid, and that it was steered from some distant region of the galaxy into a circular orbit around our planet. And hence the extraordinary mystery of the rock and moon dust age variations. They claim that intellectual life has existed in the moon for eons. Spaceship Moon is the brainchild of two Soviet researchers, but many others agree with the theory, including NASA scientists at JPL and an Oxford University physicist. The capture theory has now returned, but with a significant adjustment, and that is that the moon was steered into orbit by some intelligence. During one of the Apollo moon landings, several television viewers wrote to NASA explaining that they spotted one of the astronauts pick up what appeared to be a glass bottle and remark, "My God, I don't believe it, look at this." Then the television screen went blank. If true, this suggests a government cover-up. Other viewers observed the extreme difficulty astronauts had when drilling down a few inches into the moon's surface, and that when the drill bit was pulled out, metal shavings were visible. Rocks were found to contain brass, mica, titanium, and elements uranium-236 and neptunium-237, not previously found in nature. Astronomers have reported the sighting of a 12-mile-long bridge-like structure over the Sea of Crisis. This report was published in 1954 by John O'Neill, and in the 1950s, astronomer Morris K. Jessup claimed that UFOs had bases on the moon, and so does the government. Why was the moon directed to retain continuously a dark side? A side of the moon we never see. The two sides of the moon have evolved differently since their formation, with the far side forming at cooler temperatures and remaining stiffer, while the Earth side has been modified at high temperatures and for longer. Why the difference? Perhaps one side was exposed to more forward pressure during flight? The moon is tidally locked to Earth, meaning only one hemisphere faces us. We know that side well, with its dark regions called maria, or seas of cooled magma. Oddly, however, these maria are virtually absent from the backside of the moon, as has been revealed to us by probes and even seen in person by Apollo 8 astronauts. The proverbial dark side of the moon also is much more pockmarked by craters. The starkly different hemispheres have been partly explained by the far side having a crust roughly 9 miles thicker than that of the near side. Astronauts found it extremely difficult to drill into the surface of these dark plain-like areas. Soil samples were loaded with rare metals and elements. This dumbfounded scientists because these elements require tremendous heat, approximately 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit, to melt and fuse with the surrounding rock. Samples brought back to Earth by both Soviet and American space probes contain pure iron particles. The Soviets announced that pure iron particles brought back by remote-controlled lunar probe Zond 20 have not oxidized even after several years on Earth. Pure iron particles that do not rust are unheard of in the scientific world, although there is a solid iron pillar of unknown age in New Delhi, India, that has never rusted, and no one knows why. Until we begin to take these curiosities about the moon seriously, we may never know who parked a starship in orbit around Earth. The next time you look up at the moon, ask yourself, why?